Good morning and welcome to Series 3. And I'm delighted today that we're sat in our warehouse once again, but I'm with a gentleman I met about just after the pandemic, and it was with a friend of mine, Sean Kelly, with AT Action, and we put you together and you kindly sponsored the charity for all their golf days. And that's Mark Stewart from Stewart Trolleys. Stewart, thank you very much for coming on board.
Yeah, really pleased to be here. Thank you for inviting me on.
That's fantastic. And we've met actually through Mashi as well, because are you involved with Mashi? I know you played in a number of the events as well. So last time we saw each other was I think at Remedy Oak.
It was.
Yeah, Remedy Oak, and that was fun. And we'd actually played together, didn't we?
We did.
Where was that we played? Can't remember which course it was now, but we played with your friend, who was a really good player as well.
Fulford Heath?
Fulford Heath, that was it, yeah, perfect. So delighted to get you, and I was thinking from a business perspective, and the quality with our wines from Gusbourne and everything else, this fits really nicely into our podcast. So I'm delighted that you agreed to come on board. And also I'm slightly nervous because I've seen your podcast and they're really good as well, but we'll come on to that later.
Well, yeah, thank you very much for the compliments. Yeah.
So as always, Mark, why did I call you Stuart then?
It happens all the time.
Everyone
in our office gets called Stuart.
Well, at least we've got Stewart Trolleys in there, so that's great. So we start with wine. Delighted that we've got Gusbourne, and today this is a 2022. And it's the Brut Reserve. So the beauty of Gusbourne is their USP is they only do vintages. So 2022 was a good year, and this particular wine is a blend which they normally find in Champagne. So it's Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier. See what you think. Cheers as well. Nice to see you.
That's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah. It's they make some excellent wines just down outside of Kent, near Rye. I think I was telling you just before we started, we took a number of golf industry folk down a couple of weeks ago for a tour. Sun came out, and everybody really enjoyed the tour and learning a little bit more about English wine. But then we had the food, and we had like 4 or 5 different wines, and it was a good day, put it that way. And I think a lot more people will be having Gusbourne on their lists in golf clubs from this year. So
yeah, I'm not surprised. That's really, really very lovely.
So one of the things we always like to ask our guests is, do you have a wine story as well? I know you're not a big wine drinker, but I think you've got quite a nice story to tell us.
Well, the sort of the sparkling white is appropriate actually. So. You're right. I'm not a huge wine drinker, and it perennially disappoints a lot of people. My wife and I, we're big foodies,
yeah, okay.
But often not with the wine so much. But it does remind me though when we've been running the business now. We started it right at the end of the last century, would you believe as well? But so in the early 2000s, maybe 2005 perhaps, we'd signed our first distributor in Australia, which we thought was amazing. So at the time there's probably only 6 or 7 of us in the business, and we've gone out to Australia, signed a distributor. Obviously, all the hopes in the world this is going to work out well. And one of the family members of the people that we signed up with happened to own a massive boat. So we're in Sydney. We've signed this deal. Everybody's very happy. We end up on the back of this boat having dinner in Darling Harbour, which is just around the corner from Sydney Harbour and the Opera House. And we end up basically sat. I've got very clear memories of being out there. So evening time, sort of golden hour light, on this big, God knows how big it was, but you could seat like 20 people on it. It was a big old boat. Being sat on the back of this boat, glass of something like this in your hand, thinking, we've made it. We've absolutely made it. Turns out we hadn't. As with all these things, they never work out quite how you want them to. Yeah. But nice memory. Yeah, and things I often associate a sparkling wine with. Obviously, it's kind of champagne-y. Yeah. You can tell my lack of vocabulary is coming into play. But it's like it's celebrating things. Yeah. It's like you're enjoying yourself.
Something
normally.
special, enjoying something that you've created or signed or
whatever it is, or a nice round of golf
yeah,
probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's pretty good. Or a hole in one,
Or a hole in one.
thing. Yeah, no, that's good. So talking about the business, and you sort of highlighted that it started at the end of, well, it was really 1999, wasn't it? And it was your grandfather.
Kind of, yeah.
Right.
So this is one of those bits of our sort of early business story that is a bit confusing, basically.
Okay.
So most of the perception is that basically my grandfather started it, and then my dad did something, and then I joined, and here we are. What actually happened is it's sort of a kind of a mishmash of all that. So my granddad had an idea for a golf bag. So he lived up in near Lytham, which is a lovely golf area. Terrible weather though.
Yeah.
So it always rained. He was a nuclear engineer actually. He worked for BNFL.
Right. Okay.
So very, very smart guy. Retires, takes up golf. Everything gets wet. And he's looking at this golf bags and thinking, why on earth would you put golf clubs in upside down in a golf bag? Like, it just makes no sense. From just an engineering point of view, you'd be like, you're right, that doesn't make any sense. You've got this gaping big hole in the top where all the water goes in if it rains, and also if you get you know what it's like when you play golf in the rain, your clubs get wet. Unless you're very diligent with drying them before you put them back, eventually it's all going to drip down onto your clubs, and then you can't grip, and it's the rest of it. So he designed this golf bag where basically you turn the clubs the right way up, and that was kind of where my involvement began. So literally nothing had happened on this. It's just him sketching and things. My granddad and my dad were basically just sketching. So my dad's an engineer as well. You can see a theme coming in our family. And basically what they had was you put so that's the sort of the shaft comes down, you got your club head doing that. They're always on an angle, obviously. But if you arrange them in a cone and you sort of put them on a carousel with 3 cones for the different length golf clubs, then you can have them all on this sort of rotation system, and the club's heads will any moisture will go down, not up. You can keep everything completely encapsulated, so keep it all nice and dry. You can keep it nice and organised and index it around, and have like a door at the front, basically, where you take your club out. So I was at the time about 18 or 19, something like that. We were on holiday in the States at the time, and I was a nosy sort of curious teenager, and just said, well, what are you doing? What's that? And they explained it to me. I thought, okay. And thought it was interesting, so we got into the conversation. Got home from that holiday, and then literally I started making the prototypes in the garden shed at my dad's place, which I've still got at the factory now, the original ones I made.
Wow.
So we basically started the business off that. So although it starts with my granddad and my dad, the business actually never had, certainly never had my granddad in it. So he died in 2003, I think, when we just launched our first product. So he got to see that sort of the first one go out, which is great. And my dad is still our chairman now, but has never actually had a desk in the business. So he's never had a sort of a day-to-day role in the company.
So did you go to university?
Yes.
And you did engineering?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, this all kind of happened at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's why there's kind of a 4-year gap, basically, of when we started to when we launched something.
2003.
Yes, exactly. That was pretty much when I was at university.
And this is where I got the headline, half golf trolley, half lear jet.
That was, which was our first piece of editorial. So it was only now, or sort of with hindsight, that I realised quite how amazing that was. So we got. I still remember being interviewed by Simon Daddo at Today's Golfer, who I think is still there. I saw him not that long ago. I was stood in the corner of my parents' kitchen, because I still lived at home, doing this interview because that's the only place you could get a signal, talking about this trolley that we designed, knowing nothing about the golf industry, like literally nothing. So we didn't have history in the industry before, or anything at all. We had never sold a consumer product before between us. So naive, it's not true. Having this conversation, we're going to do this and it's going to be amazing. And it looked like nothing else, was twice the price of everything else. And we were just, like I said, I think really sort of beautifully naive about the whole thing, which I love. And then it came out. So we had something like pages 6 and 7 or 5 and 6 in Today's Golfer, which at the time was by far and away the biggest golf magazine in the UK.
Yeah, it was.
In that period. We didn't pay any money at all. We had no ad budget, zero. You know, normally how these things work.
Absolutely.
Didn't, nothing like that. And it was complete editorial. One side was a big picture, and the other side was.
Because I'm just so interested in this.
Yeah, it was just like, this is crazy. This company doing this thing, isn't it amazing? And the headline was Silver Dream Machine, half golf trolley, half Learjet. Yeah. And I remember seeing it.
When I read it, I was like, that's going to be the title. That's got to be the title of the podcast.
Oh, absolutely.
Really.
Well, we took the Dream Machine bit, we actually took that and added it. That was a tagline on our logo for about 15 years after that.
Yeah. It's incredible how businesses sometimes just stumble over those phrases or helps you to sort of focus where you're going and what you want to be. And it was always very much, when you kind of think Learjet, you kind of think, well, it's up there. Friend, don't you?
Yeah, and it was so. It sort of set the tone so well for us. Yeah. And really, and obviously we didn't design that. We didn't. It wasn't on a press release or anything. Yeah. But it set the tone so well for what we were trying to do. And it's like, no, we don't want to be a golf trolley company. That's like everybody else. We want to do. How do you do that? How do we do? What's this?
It's always been in your mind that's what we've got to be above everybody else.
Yeah. I mean, above's sort of not the way I'd put it. I don't think, but we've always
look at that luxury element.
Yeah. So when we looked at it at the market, so the reason that, and obviously we never made the golf bag, by the way. So
okay.
And the reason we never made the golf bag was just a purely practical one. In that around about that time is when drivers started getting big. Okay. And drivers started getting bigger, shafts got getting longer, which in this kind of golf bag, and like most of us now, you'll take your driver out when you put it in the car. Yeah. The golf bag we designed, it had to be an inch longer than your longest club. So it just was, it wouldn't get in a car, basically. And you see various incarnations of that sort of design now. If you go to the PGA show, there are a few things like that, and I always smile and go, it's not going to happen.
Not for the cars of the UK, maybe the cars of the States, but not here.
But what had happened through that, because we were going to have this, basically the golf bag that we were going to design wouldn't look like this because it had to have a structure to it. It needed to be rigid, basically. So we started looking at all this sort of surface design, and we were always looking more at cars than anything else. So how do you make something that's essentially a tube look cool and give it lines and give it whatever it needed to be? And so we got to this point, literally, we spent years working on this golf bag that we never made. But because it was going to be so big as well, you wouldn't have carried it either. So it was always going to be something that went onto some kind of trolley. Yeah. Which we'd also been developing. So we literally got to this point in late 2002, I think, something like that. And basically, there were 4 of us working on it by that point. So the 4 of us that are still working together now. And I said, this isn't going to happen. We're never going to be able to sell this product. But by that point we said, but we have now designed battery systems, electronic systems, we found motors, and we know we wanted to make we knew we wanted to make remote control products, because everything out there, we didn't invent remote control on a trolley, there were some out there, but it wasn't very good. So our goal was saying, let's make a product that's got 2 key things in mind. One is that it's going to be remote control, and it's going to be the best performing product on the market. So basically it won't fall over on a golf course. It needs to be stable, it needs to be able to go up hills and things, which sound basic, right? But actually even now, most people that are making remotes adapt them from non-remote products. And so it's a bit like you would in cars, that you wouldn't try and make a sports car if you started from a hatchback. You go, engine's in the wrong place. It needs to do something different. The wheelbase needs to be different. Yeah. So we start sports car, basically. We never make hatchback. Yeah. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing was that at the time in the late 90s, early 2000s, golf trolleys were ugly.
Yeah, they were.
They were just tubular frames, car battery, couple of motors or one motor, and you're in the golf trolley business. Yeah. And we looked at it and thought, you know what the problem is that electric golf trolleys are really, really positive things for the quality of golf and longevity of people playing golf and everything else. But it's a bit like having a mobility scooter. So they look horrific. If you use one of those things, people are going to laugh at you. So we saw our opportunity basically as designing a product that somebody would look at and say, that's really cool. What does it do? And then at the same time, so once you've got somebody's attention, you say, by the way, this will be the best performing golf trolley on the golf course. And so if we figured if we could sort of check those two boxes, even though we knew it would be expensive because we knew we were going to design it the way that we wanted to, rather than designing to hit price points, then basically that's how we saw our opportunity as a business, and we've not really changed our opinion since then.
Yeah. And so at 2003, what you say there's the four of you. Were you CEO at that point, or was it your father involved?
Yeah, I mean, at that point...
Literally you came from university and went, I'm going straight into the family business, was
pretty
that?
much.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I mean, it wasn't quite that, so just a slight aside on it from my own personal sort of sanity, that because I kind of knew this was likely, because I did most engineering courses, you do a third year sandwich course where you go and work in industry, and I did it working here. So I got special dispensation. I went to Loughborough, so they're all about sport.
Okay.
And my sort of key lecturer that was my point of contact loved golf as well, so he gave me sort of a special dispensation to do it. But I'd also actually applied for all the other graduate positions because I wanted to know in my own head, if I didn't have this, could I have got a proper job somewhere else, basically? And I got offered a job at Rolls-Royce and Bentley when they were still together back then, in the development team. I still remember to this day, like there were four of us that got interviewed, and one of them was my best mate as well. I got offered the job. I remember walking around a shopping centre in Leicester, and they phoned up and said, right, we're going to offer you the position. I was like, cool, I'm going to turn it down. And they're sort of, you're turning down Rolls-Royce?
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to do something else. But there was a couple of reasons in it. Is that one, obviously, this was exciting. Like you get to start something. But the other thing was that I'd actually had an interview at Vauxhall at Ellesmere Port the day after the Rolls-Royce one, and it was with a production engineer and somebody from HR, and they said, "Why do you want to work in the car business?" And I was saying, well, I just love everything about cars, and I always sort of read all the magazines and know all the sort of the latest tech and the prototypes and what's coming next and things. And the production engineer said, what would you say if I told you that working in the car business has nothing to do with cars? And literally, so I remember being sort of all positive, and I remember going, and it just hit me. I'm like, no, you're bang on. Because if I come to work for a Rolls-Royce or a Vauxhall or a Ford or whoever it would have been at the time, if I was lucky, I might get to work on a door handle or a brake caliper or a windscreen wiper or whatever it is.
Finished product.
But with this, I get to do everything. This is my baby. So I'm designing the wheels. I know what the business model is. Cool. The branding is down to me. How the company looks and feels is basically I get to do all that stuff. Yeah. So which is why it still looks a bit like a car now. That's kind of the obsession with it. So basically, effectively, I did go from this is the only proper job I've ever had. So my employment history is literally paperboy, washing up in pub, Tesco, Halfords, Stewart Golf.
Fantastic. I love that. And very successful as well, which is great. One of the things when I was doing some research is you're very much, and you actually highlighted by having the Union Jack and that type of thing, you're very much a British product, and everything is made in Britain, all the components are made in Britain, that type of thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
Which is great, isn't it? And you also have quite a local sales workforce as well. How many are you now? How many have you grown from kind of the four? What are you up to?
So now in the UK we're about 30-ish, about 30 people in the UK, and probably half of them are manufacturing. So that's literally the guys in the factory which is just in Gloucester. Yeah. So every single electric trolley we've ever made has been made in Gloucester.
Yeah. And you've moved only once, really. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. So moving from what looked like a very old stately home to now quite a modern and environmental friendly production unit. Is that
exactly?
The best thing?
Yeah, exactly. So we got our original building was an old Grade 2 listed building in properly in the heart of the Cotswold, just outside Stroud. So we left there 7 or 8 years ago, I think, and we bought a 10,000 square foot completely brand new modern manufacturing facility in Gloucester, which is one of the best things we ever did. Yeah, I mean, building stuff in the UK, I am really proud of.
Yeah.
I kind of take it for granted, and we often talk about this, that we actually don't talk about it enough. That you have to look quite hard at the product. So there's 2 little parts on there that you would see a Union Jack on it, very subtle, both of them.
Yeah.
So we probably should do more about it,
Yeah.
particularly because it's a big point of difference as well. So as far as I'm aware, there aren't any electric golf trolleys made in the UK anymore. I think pretty much all of them are made sort of overseas somewhere or other. But that said, though, it's part of it as well from with my engineering head on. It's like, so what? Like, if does that make it good?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. There's plenty of rubbish UK products as well.
Yeah.
So it's something I'm proud of, that we've built a business. I mean, outside of the product, obviously, which is what most people see, the business that we've built, I'm really proud of, because we've got 30 odd people in the UK that we've got that rely on us to pay their mortgages, that we're providing sort of good work, and we've got a great culture in our business.
Story. Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm really proud of that. And yeah, he's mentioned the environmental side of it. So we've got, of the 10,000 square foot of floor space, we've got about 7,000 square feet of solar panels on the top of it. So it's one of the things about owning the building. So we bought it rather than leased it. It meant that we could, same as a lot of other things that we do, we've kind of got a very far horizon that we look at all the time. So something like solar panels, if you're on a 3-year lease, you're not doing that because there's a 7-year payback or something on doing it. But we look at it and go, well, we're probably going to be here for 20 years. So that's a no-brainer. Yeah. So we do it. Yeah. I suppose there's a couple of things in it about, some of it is about being sort of trying to do our bit from an environmental point of view. Some of it is financially, it's a no-brainer for us over that time horizon. But also we do things like all the cardboard that we go through. So obviously stuff gets delivered to us in cardboard boxes. We ship stuff out in cardboard boxes. Every single piece of cardboard is compacted and recycled in our place. All of our waste is zero landfill. So we try and do the right thing wherever we can.
Which is great. I think that's showing best practice, which I think, again, people listening, certainly a lot of the club managers, a lot of the manufacturers, a lot of the people in the industry, they want to try and get to perfection. They're always trying to get better. That's what I like about the industry, because they're driven, if you like, especially this time of year. I'm always thinking, you're driven by Augusta. You're driven by those trying to get perfection. They never make it, but that's what everybody's trying to achieve. Some people can't do that, but how do I improve it? Just a tad, year on year on year. And I think that's what I've enjoyed about being in the golf industry for like 35 years, is that seeing now, like from an agronomy perspective, the standards are so much better than they were in the 90s, for example. And I think, you look at equipment, the technology that goes into this to make these amazing things for you to hit a little white ball further is incredible. But also you're seeing golf businesses now, since the pandemic, really sort of thrive as well, which I think is great, to see that, and more ideas, a younger generation coming in, and their input is being put into it as well. So I think, certainly from a British perspective, where if you looked at, golf starting at St Andrews, you could say that this is where it all started. And if you're promoting British products to around the world, that's a pretty good thing. One of the things, actually, we mentioned it, Gusbourne won the British Luxury Award, which was sponsored by British Airways this year. And it's part of Walpole, which you should have a look at, because it's all the luxury brands that are made in Britain. And I think this is definitely a luxury brand. So the connections within that group could be really interesting for you. Yeah,
and it's obviously it's a company that we would like to think we can keep with things like that. But I guess what you were describing before, that it's an interesting conversation about perfectionists driving for perfection, which I've sometimes referred to myself as a recovering perfectionist, and that actually I used to think of myself as a perfectionist, but actually it's the wrong thing to think about. And you alluded to it, in that actually what you should be doing is continuous improvement. And again, with my sort of engineering head on, and so Stewart Golf's mostly a manufacturing company. So we're full of engineers and technical people, and everything that we're trying to do is about continuous improvement. So perfection is basically impossible. And actually, one that we mentioned about the podcast, that one of the or the first guest that we had on the podcast was a Red Arrows pilot, and I was lucky enough to be able to go and spend a day basically behind the scenes at the Red Arrows and watch them training. Basically, it was phenomenal, and they very, very firmly basically said that we have never flown a perfect show, and there is no such thing. And every single show they fly, they film, and then this is a bit that I will never forget. Is that afterwards they will all go and sit in their sort of briefing room in the same chairs. So the red one will sit in red one chair and everything else, and I got to sit behind them in the blue chairs. They're in the red chairs, and they pick every single thing apart. And they do this 3 times a day, all through the winter, or they'll go off to Cyprus and do it where there's clear skies. But it's all about continuous improvement. How can we be better? How can we be better? What wasn't quite right? Okay, how can we get better? It's not about patting yourself on the back and saying, we're great. Saying, okay, no, we're doing a good job, but what else can we do?
Which is a nice feeling to be in, isn't it? It's sort of, I think, when you know you're good, because you'll see the sales come in and wherever, and people saying, you've got a lovely product, but knowing that you can get better and you want to get better. And I think people enjoy being part of that environment as well, don't they? So it would be boring just to go like, it's fine.
I think so. I think it's dangerous, isn't it? Because you see it all the time in lots of brands. That there's if any brand in any sector rests on their laurels too much, somebody will come in. And we see this all the time. There's brands in every sector that look like challenger brands, and 5 years later are the establishment. And obviously that's. I still think of myself as being one of the young people in the industry, because when I started it, I was in my early 20s, so I was at the time. I'm now very much not, which I'm struggling to accept.
I kind of feel like that as well, because I started when I was like 21 in the industry, and now I'm like 60, and I was like, I'm definitely not young. But so I enjoy seeing that enthusiasm coming through.
Yeah, and it's great. And I think the thing is that, from my point of view, I want to continually try and reinvent what we're doing. It's like, okay, well, that's great. Well, is that still are we right? What assumptions have we got here? Are we just assuming this is the right way of doing things, or are we Nokia saying people like buttons? So it's interesting.
And this comes on to a really good point, really, because obviously you're doing well. Golf is kind of in that period of probably, in the 90s, which was 2010 was to 2020 was okay, but people were looking at waiting. There was no waiting list to get into golf clubs and all that kind of stuff. And then, obviously, the pandemic comes, and everything stops. And you as a business owner, like so many other business owners, were like, "What do we do? How do we do it?" What was your thoughts? And obviously, as you've highlighted, you've got a workforce that you've got to think about. You've got to think about, what do I do with all the stock, and how am I ever going to start again, and are people allowed to play golf, and all that kind of stuff. As of March 2020, you must be sitting there going, oh, God, what am I doing?
Yeah, I mean, we all remember that sort of March 2020 and Boris coming on the telly and saying, everybody sort of needs to stay at home.
Can you believe that's 6 years ago?
It's
incredible,
feels like a lifetime.
It doesn't seem like it.
But so for us, from our sort of the experience that we had of it, so we were the same on day zero, I suppose, of it. We were the same, going, oh my God, okay, well, we need to do what they tell us to do then, when everybody can go home. We'll furlough the staff and do what we kind of need to do. But it was just before Easter, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So at the time we only had 13 or 14 staff. We had one person doing our marketing, plus sort of half of my time or so, and he'd already set up the campaign. Basically, it was going out on email. We had some ads ready. The website was all set up. We just said, well, let's just let it run. It'll do what it'll do, and we might get some revenue in that we can pay the wages for another few months or something. And it went really well. But then what we started to see was, particularly in the States, so we haven't spoken about America yet, but we started to see actually it's going faster, not slower. And so we went from this point of going, oh my God, like this could be it. This would literally be the end of days for us, to 3 weeks later going, we need everybody back immediately, and then how many more people can we hire as fast as possible? So we went from, like I say, 13 or 14 people to nearly 40 people in about a year through that period.
Wow.
The size of the business tripled, and a lot of this is driven by the US. So I should go back a little bit, we'd made a decision, what would it have been, 2016, to basically try and do something in America. So we'd always had a distributor in America, sort of nominally, and it had always been okay, but it had never been great. And every time we go to the Orlando PGA show, like we do, and go, there's a lot of golf in America. What's going on? But not a lot of walking golf in America. So we said, okay, well, let's do this anyway and invest in some marketing and we'll see what happens. And it started going okay. And we'd done 2019 and actually it was starting to become a significant bit of the business for us. But all third party, I set up a website, they can dispatch this person will service it. So so we didn't have to bet the farm on it effectively. Then COVID happens and it just goes through the roof. So despite the fact that we're selling the most expensive products in our sector of the industry, we launched actually the Q, this model, the first versions of this we launched during that sort of end of 2020, I think we launched that. And it just went through the roof, everything went through the roof. So the upshot of it was we ended up pretty much by the end of that, we had our own business in America. With our own place.
Okay.
We'd won we were one of the top 100 fastest growing businesses in the Sunday Times.
All right. Very good.
I'd been given nominated for a EY Entrepreneur of the Year award, which I didn't win. I was a regional for my listing.
Still pretty good.
It's all right.
Still pretty good.
I mean, it's opened a lot of doors for us actually, which is really, really cool. But so we had this period and it all happened in about 18 months. And it was just an absolute whirlwind. So even to this day, actually, in our kitchen at work, we've got just a big notice board with Polaroids of everybody that works there with a name underneath it, because we got to this point where we were employing so many people so quickly. And of course, there's an attrition rate to this as well, so they don't always last. Yeah. We're pretty picky about who we want to work for us.
Which is it's all about recruitment, isn't it? Right?
Exactly. So you've got the right people in there, but I didn't know who anybody was. So because the anybody that could work at home was working at home. So actually, I wasn't actually at work half the time anyway. So I'd be coming into work and wandering down the production line like the Queen, and be going, and "What do you do here? What's your name?" Good. So we put this notice board up, but actually it was nice. So we still do it now, which is good. So we now ended up with half a dozen people now work for us in the States. We've got our own place in Texas.
In Texas? Okay, why Texas?
Basically because it's just another one of those kind of sort of luck things really, that we needed to make our first key hire in America, our first hire in the US. But we didn't really know anybody. So through our FD at the time, he'd worked with an American business previously, and basically said, "There's a guy that I think would be perfect, that I know and I trust. You should probably talk to him." So we went over and met him. He happened to live in Houston, and actually because we wanted one place that was going to service East Coast and West Coast, so time zone wise it sort of worked, because the first place I was in Florida, but most of our business is in California, so we were on the wrong side of the country. So being in Houston, fairly fortuitous. It's a good sort of business friendly state, and seems as good as any place, to be honest. So that's where we've put down our roots.
And obviously, golf has gone on that journey since the pandemic. Why do you think people are still walking? Why, they haven't got just jump back on the buggies?
In the US?
Yeah, particularly.
I think it's a really, to be honest, it goes back to the reason that we wanted to start our own business in the States anyway. And for all the time I've been doing this, we've all been saying to each other, at some point America's going to start walking, health-wise, sort of physical health, mental health. And as we all know, like, to have a conversation about walking golf to English people just go, "Why are you saying walking? That's just golf, right?" It seems weird, but obviously in the States it's different.
Buggy golf.
It's buggy golf, and that's how 80% of Americans will play golf. But there's an awful lot of Americans playing golf, and it's growing quickly still in the States. So I think what happened in the pandemic was that, what definitely happened is that demand went up for golf like it did everywhere, which is great, but capacity of buggies went down because, well, it actually went down partly because it was single rider, so effectively it halved.
Yeah. From a cost perspective, I'm paying for a whole cart rather than
half. So whatever it might have been. So basically, they actually weren't that available, but demand for golf was going up as well. So in sort of effectively, it almost went to like a third of its previous level. So pretty much, if you were going to be playing golf, you kind of a good proportion of people had to walk. So then, if you're going to walk, then this kind of product comes into its own. So, everybody that was selling push trolleys, electric trolleys, was exactly in the right place at the right time over there. So,
and there is a walking club, isn't it? You sort of promote that walking club. Is that?
Yeah. So we've started a new website called thewalkinggolfer.com out there. So obviously, it's in our interest to promote this category of golf in the States. So so there obviously, as you probably know, there's places like Bandon Dunes and Streamsong in Florida that are predominantly walking, if not exclusively walking. So it's starting there, and in the States it tends to be the sort of the more traditionalists or the people that consider themselves proper golfers, or to be fair, anybody they've come on their golf trips to Scotland or Ireland normally,
they enjoyed that,
and they love it and go, I'm going to do more of this. Yeah. So I think it's only going to go one way, and obviously we're going to be promoting the hell out of it as well. So,
it's great that we're talking to a number of people, and the pandemic has, in so many ways, has been good from a golf.
As an industry, we were so lucky, and it's kind of nice talking to other people in the golf industry about it, because for a good couple of years I just felt really guilty about it. Because all of my neighbours, so I live in Cheltenham, and there's lots of people that work there. I don't know, almost every other industry, to be honest, suffered massively. And we were just so lucky that we were in the right place, selling the right product in the right industry at the right time.
But I think, to be fair to you as well, you suddenly, you looked at the data as such, and you went, we're going to make that decision, and you jumped on that bandwagon, like, as you said, like almost immediately, and went full on, which I think, again, is a good sign of a business, but also a good sign of a leader, where you're kind of going, this is what we need to do. We're going to back it, and we're going to push everything towards it, and it must be very satisfying to see it come off.
Yeah, it was, and to be fair, that wasn't. I can't take. I often sit and do these kind of things and take credit for everybody else's work at our place, but
it's a team. It's
all about the team, and that was the thing. It was like, this is it. This is our chance, because the thing is, by that point we'd already been in business for 15 years, and sort of incrementally growing a bit, and this was our chance. And that was what the big thing, saying, we've got to go for this. We can only go for this if we employ people. So we've always been incredibly cautious hirers. This is it. Unless you put 10 more people in this factory, we don't do any numbers.
Have you got very different people now than you would have had before the pandemic?
No, a lot of the same ones, to be honest. We've changed, as a business, we've changed a lot in that we internally, like a lot of business will, but we focus an awful lot on our company culture. So we're very, very insistent on hiring the right people rather than the right CV, if you see what I mean. So it's I think it becomes a little bit self-fulfilling in the end that we get the people that want to be with us. And so that obviously there's a risk in that we keep hiring the same profile all the time. But we want the people that want to be sort of work in our environment. And so now we're sort of embarking on a project actually to renew all that stuff. And now the things we've got now is that we've actually got two businesses. So we've got a US business as well. So there's half a dozen people over there that obviously effectively work for the same company. It's a different culture, and they're 7-8 hours separate to us. So actually, we don't communicate them with a huge amount. But we know the US is going to be it's already more than half of our business. It will end up probably being 3/4 of it. So that's massively important. That's a really thriving culture as well within that business.
That comes. What's going to come to my next question? It's great. Where does it? Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time? Because this. And do you see this still remaining as a family business? Are your children looking at this and thinking, I'm going to take it over? I mean, or do you think this is something that someone will look at and go, this is a great little business. We're going to stick this in to this and sell out?
I mean, I don't know, to be honest.
No.
The family point is kind of an interesting one, though, just as a slight aside. In that, so my kids are quite small. So my kids are only 7 and 10, so they're a ways away. But it's interesting that. So I've got 2 brothers as well that are nothing to do with Stewart Golf, that have done other things. And when I haven't talked about my dad particularly. So my dad was in the middle of us. He had a manufacturing business as well, and he actually sold his business. Obviously, this wasn't just for us kids, but he sold the business. And part of the reason he sold the business when we were all quite young, was that he didn't want us to work in it. And I'm forever grateful for that, because the thing about being in fact somebody else's business, but as one of the kids, is that you're at a massive disadvantage most of the time in that. Like, you've got the privilege of potentially sort of succeeding somebody, but if that's in a business that's already established, then you'd have to be very, very, very good to be credible within that business. Sure. So I've always told myself, and I know lots of people that are in family business in their 3rd and 4th generation and stuff, and I don't often look at them and feel any kind of envy. It's a kind of interesting thing. So there's no way in the world that my kids are going to run this business. But that's it. But so in 10 years' time, I mean, I still see just a huge amount of growth in what we're doing. We've got so many. So at heart, I love products, and what's the next shiny thing we can make, basically. So that's kind of what gets me excited about the business.
I love your bags that actually, when we went to your car, and I think everything is just so neat and tidy, and the bags fit, and the attention to detail. It's not just, as we said back in the 90s, it really was like all the mud and
tubes,
trolleys and this, and they take this part, and it's like 15 minutes to get it out and 15 minutes to put it. I mean, literally, it's like 2 seconds to like push it down, push it in.
Yeah, and things. I mean, and the nice thing is, like, everybody else is coming on at the same pace. This continuous improvement thing. So what I was saying about golf trolleys in the 90s looking terrible, they all look good now. I'd like to think we've had something to do with that. That those sort of come in our direction ever so slightly. But there's so many.
It's dragging everybody else, isn't it? It's continuous improvement. If they're doing it, we've got to do it.
Exactly.
We've got to look what are they doing, and that's not a bad thing. It's certainly not a bad thing for the customer.
No, I think I like it because it keeps everyone on their toes. Yeah. You get lazy if you don't have competition. Yeah. So, but we've got tons of cool product stuff that we want to do from a business point of view. Actually, we're getting. You mentioned said about the sort of the team and the team members. What has changed in the last 2 or 3 years is that because we've reached a sort of scale where there's enough cash going through the business now, then actually we can start to hire really good level sort of senior people. So that's changed a fair bit. So we've hired a couple of people at a senior level, so a really impressive CFO and a chief commercial officer as well that's just come in from Panasonic, that with a lot of very, very good experience that are just way better than I am at these kind of things, far better. And this is the thing that we've been doing it for so long, me and Dave and John, the other founders, that actually people that are specialists in their role that go, I mean, in some ways, it's kind of hilarious that we'll come in and go, it's a miracle you've got this far. Like, how on earth have you got to this point? Like, well, we sort of got to do this and got there. And we've worked with some really good people. So there's one of the things that the EY Entrepreneur of the Year program delivered for us was that I went to see a presentation with Steve Hewitt, who used to be the CEO of Gymshark. And he just blew me away with... this could be an hour's conversation on its own, to be honest, but the long story short is that I watched his presentation, spoke to him afterwards, ended up working with him and the sort of team that have all now left Gymshark, and they worked with us for probably 6 months, just with me and the marketing team, and changed fundamentally how we view the marketing function in our business, which is, I'll explain another time, but things like that have just from the outside in, you wouldn't see any different. But the way that we think about ourselves has changed dramatically. So, although obviously we're still a golf trolley manufacturer, But I don't see us as the same as the other golf trolley manufacturers who will have obviously their ways of doing with it, which are probably, I'm not saying I'm right, obviously it's working out well for them, but I don't see us like that. And that's kind of what keeps me excited and engaged with the business, because I'll look at it now and we go, we're 25 years or whatever it is that we're into it. But I'll start looking at this and go, I feel like it's brand new.
Brilliant.
It excites me. And I go, well, I know what else we can do.
You talk about marketing, and I think one of the first things, I think it was before I met you, that I was intrigued about was a marketing post and April Fool's. And it was about Augusta, wasn't it? It was like, and you got it was like, and it kept being like #1 story on Golf Business News for the whole year. And I was like, does nobody realise this is April Fool?
Yeah.
Like, what is going on?
That one was that was a bit of a runaway train, that one. So we've always tried to do something fun with April Fools, especially. Obviously, 'cause as a business, you don't get many opportunities to show personality. So April Fools is kind of a good one. We've done a few over the years, but yeah, this one. So this was in COVID, and we had the idea between us that we go, wouldn't it be funny if they banned caddies in Augusta because of social distancing? But we came to the rescue and provided them with, what is it, 92, 96, I forget how big the field is there, white X10s it would have been. So not this model, but we did this one that's bright white, like looks a bit like the white caddy uniform.
Yeah.
So we did this whole press release and just obviously hammed it all up. And
it was brilliant. It was fantastic.
So we did a really obviously the images have got to go with it. So we did this really badly photoshopped image of basically all these white golf trolleys down Magnolia Lane with. The caddies have a number. Do they have a number?
They have a number because it's basically.
It's your last year's position, is it? Or
last year's, or I think like #1 gets it, but it's then when you turn up, you get that number.
You get the number. Yeah. So anyway, so we put players' names and the number on the back of the golf trolley, and but then. With the format we normally follow with this, the further you read down the press release, the sillier it gets. So by the time you get to the bottom, and literally the bottom of this press release was, I forget what title I'd given her, but I quoted Sarah Connor. So the geeks will know that Sarah Connor was the mum in Terminator, and was the head of the US Caddies Association. So literally saying, these are coming for you, you'll regret this, blah, blah, blah. And it was just ridiculous. So obviously this goes out there. And yeah, like I say, it was the #1 story on the GBN all year. I think it ended up being #2 behind Stoke Park, being taken over. I think it was. But we were getting phone calls left, right, and centre about people basically saying, "Oh, if that's what they think caddies do, Stewart Golf don't really know what they're talking about." And literally, people were sending me WhatsApp voice notes that they got from their mates. It was the funniest thing. But it just kept going for ages. It still pops up every now and again now. Yeah. And thing is, when you get
brilliant. I thought it was brilliant, and I was like, and the fact that it gets #1 for that long was like incredible.
Yeah. So it was good fun. I mean, obviously, it's one of those things that this is kind of what with my engineers head on, but so that's my background, but most of my time I spend in sales and marketing, the sort of business owners tend to. But those are the kind of things where we sit there, and it probably took us an afternoon to do that, and actually the ripples are still going. Yeah. Where are we? It's probably 5 years ago or something we did that.
Pandemic,
pandemic. So they're really good fun, those things. But we did a few good ones.
And then the other thing, when I spoke to you, probably on the phone when we were talking about coming on the podcast, was obviously you do a podcast, but it was. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but it's not really to get followers or whatever. It's actually to engage with your ambassadors that you have, but also your customers, so that they have something to listen to and engage with the ambassadors, rather than just being this sort of person on social media. Is that
exactly.
Right?
Well, it was an idea that we've been discussing for a couple of years, to be honest, internally, and that we're in this weird position where actually we've got good relationships with some high-profile people because they're customers, and some of these guys like Vernon Kay and Spoonie and Darren Goff that's not out yet, but it will come out fairly soon. So a few of these people like that are they're very high-profile people that lots of people know for TV presenting or media or whatever it might be, or cricket, etc. But don't know, they never talk about golf really publicly, or unless you really look for it. So we've got this situation where, and the other side of it is that we've got a big audience. So we've got hundreds of thousands of people on our database, all consumers, but we need content to keep ourselves, because there's only so many times you can say, have you seen our golf trolley? Have you seen our golf trolley? It gets a bit boring even for us. So we were saying, well, look, these, and the thing is, I've been similar to yourself. You get in a really privileged position sometimes to get to hang out and play golf with these people and hear them talk about golf, and it's fascinating. And so I just said with the marketing guys, I'm like, we should do a podcast, and it's one of those things. Again, I'm sure you had the conversation before we started this, going, really? So anyway, so we did it. So we thought we'd do a trial of it. So we did this with an initial run of 6, so very, very short. But it's been great, and I think a lot like you, I've really enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, I enjoyed doing this, but I actually enjoy your podcast as well. I think they are really well done, and in some great settings as well. And you've got some really interesting people, which kind of ticks a lot of boxes when it comes to podcasts.
Exactly. So I mean, I don't think I'm going to end up being a podcaster, if I'm honest, or I don't know where the format will go.
But that's not the point. But again, from people listening from a business perspective, it's more about, podcast, you have to get so many followers, and this is how you get money. It's not about that at all. It's actually giving something back to your customers, which I really like that bit. And it's for me, we're actually going to be setting up a wine club, and the opportunity to use that, your example is actually getting people who are members of the wine club to appreciate people talking about wine and golf. Yeah. Because it's a wine and golf club,
Yeah, exactly. And it is interesting because I've enjoyed listening to all the sort of the previous episodes of this podcast as well. It's especially like we all spend time sat in the car going back and forth various places. Yeah. It's nice to listen to the good conversations. But yeah, it's exactly that really. From our point of view, from a sort of business point of view, it was, well, we can create some content. It actually won't cost us very much money to do. And that's the other kind of nice, it's sort of very gratifying for me that these people that will probably wouldn't get out of bed for less than 10 grand for a day rate or something. Actually,
for a trolley,
for a trolley, it's okay. But they're spending the best part of a full day with us, and we didn't pay any of them any money at all. Yeah. And they're happy to do it with us. And actually, the thing is, after what we don't see with these podcasts, the same with this one, is that we sort of hang around afterwards and have lunch together, and you're doing all these things, and they're in no hurry to leave. Yeah. It's really nice. Yeah. But obviously, from an association point of view, it's lovely for us to be able to say, we hang out with these cool people, and that's just kind of the brand that we are. Yeah. But that happens over 20 years of building those relationships.
You have to build those relationships.
Yeah.
It's not, and that's what I've enjoyed about doing the podcast, is that the majority of the people I've kind of known, and we've had a relationship, or I know in the industry. So only a couple of people have been new, and I'm going to have a couple of people who are new on Series 3 as we go along, which is going to be interesting. But generally, the enjoyment of listening to people and their experiences within the golf industry or the wine industry as well is great. I mean, because wine and golf are so intertwined. You look at it and you think, we're in a beautiful place in Gusbourne in the vineyard with the sun out, or we're in a beautiful terrace looking at the golf course. I mean, today we just happen to be in a warehouse, but we're talking about two things, wine and golf, which most people go, pretty good.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Last two questions, we ask these to all of our guests, is if you won the golf lottery and you could win as much money in the world, but you have to spend it on golf, what would it be?
I've been thinking about this and going back and forth on this since we spoke, and there's probably two ways that I would really love to spend a lot of money on golf. One would be, kind of the thing that would be expected, where you would say, well, I'm not going to work anymore, and all I'm going to do is travel around the world in a private jet with and play the best courses, and I think, which is kind of an obvious one. I think one of the conversations I had with actually on our podcast with DJ Spoonie was really fascinating, in that he talks about golf in a way that I've not heard people talk about golf much. And he's basically, as a kid from, he was born in Hackney in London, didn't see a lot of the countryside when he was growing up, discovered golf relatively late in his life, it taught him so many things about life and discipline and etiquette and all those kind of things that we know comes with golf when you start with it, that I would love more young kids to get into golf or have access to golf really early. So I think either I would like super fund golf routes or something like that, or figure something out where there were kind of, I don't know, maybe some kind of exclusive under 16s golf courses or something like that. Because
Teddy, we will have, and you'll like this podcast. It's a new company. It's called Drivebox.
Okay.
And Drivebox is basically a simulator on wheels. And one of the things is actually they've got Kate and Justin Rose Foundation have backed them to go into schools in inner cities to give those kids that very opportunity to understand their first introduction to golf, which I would never have got before.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great opportunity. So get you and those two
together. Yeah, we'll just fun the crap out of it and it'll be great. But the thing is, there's the other big side of it that, again, we all know and take for granted almost, but in a world of, especially with young kids now and screens and social media and all that rubbish, that being out on a golf course, having the time and having these chats and whatever it is, or just wander around in nature, it's so valuable that I think it can easily be kind of trivialized almost. But there's something in there.
Absolutely, and also family connections. So I remember when my son was about 14, we were at St Andrews, and the opportunity to see him get better, but actually go on the golf course. I remember it was a lovely summer's evening. We're on the Eden course at St Andrews, and for the first time he started to open up about school because he's severely dyslexic, and it was some of the issues that he was having. I wouldn't have done that if he was in his room just on the screen, but because we're walking 9 holes and we're talking about golf and something he enjoyed, things sort of come out. And I think you're absolutely right that golf gives you that opportunity to build relationships, whether it be for family or if it's for business, or if it's generally just making friends.
Yeah. There's so much value in it, and I think that's, and again we go back to the sort of the encouraging walking golf is a part of that as well. There's a huge element, and I don't know if this is just my experience of it, but I find the older I get, the more valuable that feels.
Yeah, well, as you get to my age, 100% it does. Yes. Yeah, we had a conversation with my son. We played Worplesdon last week. It was lovely. The sun came out wonderful. And I've got 2 grandchildren. I've got a 7-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl. And it's like, do you think those two will play golf? And I said, I think the girl's going to play golf, which would be great.
Yes.
For the 3 of us to go out and play golf together would be amazing.
Yeah, well, and again, it's one of those things, that intergenerational thing of golf, isn't it? That there aren't many sports that will give you that. Hardly any.
And the final question is, obviously, 1 round of golf left in your life. Where would it be? And who would you play with and why?
So again, I've thought about this an awful lot. And
a lot of people do, and what I'm finding is that it's actually quite an emotional question as well, which is great because it hopefully gets the listeners and the viewers to understand a little bit more about you as well. So
the journey I went on with answering this question was that initially it's the obvious. Well, not the obvious, but a lot of people talk about family, don't they?
Yeah.
And, so I've got my dad and my 2 brothers. So my dad's still around; he's in his early 80s now.
Yeah.
And so I thought definitely that would be my kind of sort of emotional response. And then I thought, should it be more interesting than that? So I've started thinking, is it Michael Jordan or Barack Obama, or and I thought maybe I want it funnier than that, so it should be Michael McIntyre or something. But where I've ended up actually is going back to sort of the more emotional side of it. So it would be my dad and my 2 brothers, and the golf course would be one that probably most people listening to this or would never have been to. Cowes Golf Club on the Isle of Wight. On the Thursday of Cows Week. So the reason it's this specific and that particular place is my mum's from the Isle of Wight, so I've got cousins down there and lots of family. And so for the last, God knows how long, I think it is 20-something years, on the Thursday of Cows Week, which is the big sailing festival they have down there, that we take over Cowes Golf Club. It's only a little 9-hole course. It is not. I love it, but it's not the Wentworths or the Stoke Parks of this world. and we take it over. So there's multi-generational. It's the kids, the parents, and the grandparents. And there's we do a shotgun start. So there's obviously only 9 teams, maybe sometimes 10 if we can squeeze it in. And it's just the best day that we have together. So we the quality of the golf is absolutely not even secondary. Like, it's right at the bottom of the list of that golf day, by invitation only. So it's normally the Isle of Wight versus the rest of the world as a kind of Ryder Cup type format. There's also individual as well, so I was lucky enough to win it 2024, and the winner gets a Pontins yellow jacket, master style with all the names embroidered down it. And it's genuinely is one of my favourite days of the year. So there are, you know, when you sort of plan your year for next year, that is always in there. It's always in, doesn't matter where we are.
Great.
I've actually interrupted other holidays to go to that and go back before, because I love it so much. So golf, like we've talked about already, golf for me is part of it is, and again, we've both been lucky enough to play some of the best golf courses in the world with some unbelievable people, high profile people and everything else. But fundamentally, it should be fun. It should be relaxing. It should be. I'm not a good golfer.
You're not bad.
I'm all right, but it's like I'm not winning things. I'm not going out there to try and sort of break 80. That gives me away. I'm not trying to shoot 59 or anything. So actually, it's, well, why am I here then? And it's basically just to enjoy things. I want to hang out with the people I like. I want to enjoy my day. I'm going to have a glass of wine or a beer afterwards. And that the Cows Week Open, they call it, ironically for an invitational, but which is part of its charm. So that's where I would be.
That's fantastic. Well, that's been really fascinating. I think everybody would have enjoyed the story, enjoyed listening to how you have brought trolleys to the forefront and where it's going. And I think very proud of what you've done and being British. So, well, cheers.
Cheers. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Take care.